Hey you guys, it is your favorite day of the week. It is Just the Tip Tuesday and I have a really good one which I'm excited to share with you today. So I can't wait to dive in. What I'll do in the comments below is I'll post the link and it will be to a full article which dives a lot deeper into this tip about the 6 best low-calorie condiments. That's a tough word to say. The best 6 low calorie sauces basically that you can use in your regular diet. You don't have to make any drastic changes. And these are to make things more delicious at the end of the day. But what I find a lot of my clients before they start working with me, or when they're entering things into the app and they're trying to figure out where all their numbers are going and maybe why they've struggled to lose weight in the past, these sauces can be a really tricky thing because especially when they're labeled low fat or things like that, it doesn't necessarily always mean healthy for us and good for us. So I wanted to talk about 6 of the best. And I know for me, when I was trying to lose over 60 pounds, it was like the sauce would always come on the side. That was a no-brainer because that had been just brainwashed into me. But I didn't really understand, like dipping into that, how much I was actually putting in my body. And so I think it's important to understand that as well, these serving sizes and how much we're actually putting in our body. Things like mayonnaise and honey mustard that maybe we're dipping our wings in, they can have close to 100 calories for 1 tablespoon. So you think you sit down to a serving of wings, each dip, those calories just add up. And I'm not a huge advocate for really heavily tracking calories. I think there are other important nutrients to take into consideration. But at the end of the day, guys, if you're trying to lose weight, it comes down to calories in versus calories out. And it can easily put us over when we're adding in a lot of these sauces and thinking maybe we're making the right decisions, and unfortunately we're not. So in this Just the Tip Tuesday, I wanted to cover 6 of the best low-calorie condiments that you can start using. So number 1, mustard. This is like a powerhouse. It's essentially like a 0-calorie sauce, so you can really layer it up. But a lot of them actually have, if you flip over the back, a lot of these mustards that are coming out have turmeric found in them, and that can be a really great spice to implement into your diet. It can help speed up your metabolism. It can act as an anti-inflammatory, so it can reduce that bloat. And it's an antioxidant. There's a number of health benefits of some of the spices and the things that go into mustard. And so I really recommend adding that in as a condiment. And there's different types of mustard as well, so you don't have to necessarily get bored, and it can add a lot of flavor to your sandwiches or to your dish even when you're cooking with it. And I find it a really versatile condiment to use, especially when you're wanting that, when you pick something up and you just maybe want some sauce dripping off it, mustard can be a really good one to turn to for that. So there's more ways to use mustard, and there's a little link in the full article, so make sure you check that out, about 10 ways to use mustard, but I won't bore you with that. I won't go into too much detail, don't worry. The second best condiment that I recommend. Now hear me out. It's low sugar ketchup. It might sound silly and it might be like, what even is that? But the average serving of this traditional commercial ketchup, or as Australians call it, tomato sauce, has more sugar in it than like a chocolate chip cookie. And I remember when I actually started doing some research and studying for some courses that I was taking, the amount of sugar levels that were in the things that we just eat in our everyday life. And I was blown away when I saw the amount that are in some of these ketchup brands. It's scary. So I recommend getting away from the ketchups that are loaded with the sugars. You can buy store-purchased versions of this, which make it easy for you to make that switch. If you want to take it a step further, it's not too difficult to actually make your own ketchup. So a little bit of like fresh tomatoes, or like pure tomato, mixed with some vinegar and some spices, and you can actually just boil it. There's a few recipes out there that I've tried, and in less than half an hour you can have your own like fresh homemade low or no sugar ketchup, and you can just put that stuff on everything. So again, I'm an advocate for this juicy feeling because I think it's really satisfying I don't like dry foods. I don't like when I've got to really chew on something. I kind of like it to be doused in sauce. So if we can add some of these nutrients from the vegetables and make our own homemade version of it, then we're just winning and we don't have to feel any sort of guilt. But a lot of people that I speak to are actually completely, and I was the same, completely unaware of just the amount of sugar and other crap that they load into this ketchup to make it taste good. And again, think about how many times that like amount of sugar in the chocolate chip cookie, that's for one serving of ketchup, which is often about a tablespoon. So think about how often do we actually use just a tablespoon of it? Not very often. So that's a lot of sugar to be adding just onto a meal that could be really, nutrient dense and good for us. But unfortunately, we counteract it when we add something like a chocolate chip cookie onto it. I picture it now, like when I load ketchup onto my burger, I almost picture putting a cookie on top of that beef patty. That's what goes through my mind now. So I prefer the taste of the low sugar stuff as well. Once you make the switch, you'll really notice when you have just regular, normal, commercial grade ketchup, you'll taste like the sweetness of it. It's kind of crazy. The third one for Just the Tip Tuesday is low sodium soy. So with this, there's different types. There's actually tamarai as well, which I know a lot of people prefer the taste of that compared to the low sodium soy sauce. And I believe there's some like gluten-free options out there as well, which have like the same health benefits as the low sodium, but they're just labeled differently. So spend a little bit of time next time you're in that aisle and just have a look at the bottles and flip them over, and don't be afraid to do a little bit of research on there while you're standing before you make your purchase. But something different in the fermentation process makes it not taste any different, but you can reduce that amount of sodium that's entering your body. So a lot of the women that I speak to, sodium can be a huge culprit for why we're holding on to that water and why we're feeling that bloat. And when we, the pants feel a little bit tight and maybe we have a little bit too much salt in our body, there's a healthy level for us, but when we're out of balance in that way, it can make us retain that water, and it can make us not sort of flush it out of our system, and it can make us feel like we're a little bit heavier, a little bit more bloated. And so something like a soy sauce, again, if it's not really going to change the flavor of what we're putting in our mouth anyway, I'm all for making these small changes. And I don't think it even costs anymore. So there's no excuse, you guys. We're not supposed to have crazy amounts of sodium in our diet, and this is something that's added into a lot of foods as it is. So if you can make a small change with something like soy sauce, and you're cooking a stir fry and you want that to be part of the juicy goodness that you start bubbling with those veggies, just go for your low sodium option, and I'm sure that you will feel a little bit better if soy sauce is something that you enjoy. Having that low sodium option is going to be a win for you. Balsamic vinegar. This is something that I know a lot of people, it's a particular taste, so I totally understand if it's not your jam. When I was growing up, balsamic it used to almost be like sour. I feel like my cheeks would really like squeeze in and I'd be like, oh, what is that taste in my mouth? And I didn't really like it, to be honest with you. I think my taste buds have developed, or I like to think that they've developed a little bit. So I find now that I can incorporate balsamic on top of my salad. But it's a really good alternative when you just want a completely different taste, because it's not like those mustards, it's not like those ketchups, it's completely different. And it's actually low on the glycemic index. So if you're following any sort of like low GI, balsamic can become one of your best friends, and you can make that the base of other dressings as well. So I know that there are a lot of recipes out there. If you just Google balsamic dressing healthy recipe, loads of things will come up, and they're really getting away from all of these like really heavy creams and these oils that aren't good for us, and they'll focus more about like the balsamic and the lemon and water and things like this that we can add in to make, and spices in there as well, and shake that up in a jar, keep that in your fridge, and Bob's your uncle. So you can make a healthy alternative there as well, and it's just a good option to have, because I don't think that if we just stick with one of these condiments that I'm talking about, we're not going to be, it's not going to be as appealing. We need a mixture of them, and having them on hand makes it foolproof for you, because you won't be tempted to reach for the store-bought, big tub of dressing that's filled with all sorts of things. Flip one of those labels over when you're in the store next and just see if you can pronounce half of the ingredients. But if you make something ahead of time like that and you just have it in your fridge, it keeps for like up to a month. And you can just put that stuff on your salads, dip some bread into it, whatever works for you, whatever you actually like and what appeals to your taste buds, go for it. But using that as a base can be a really good option because of its low-calorie content. Sriracha, so hot sauce. There are different types, but I know a lot of people actually know that Sriracha bottle, so you can go and see the little, the article has a image in it, and it'll show you that bottle that I'm talking about. Most of you are probably familiar with it, but it's one of the best low-calorie condiments out there. It's extremely low in sodium, and fun fact, it actually has what they call capsicum in it. And so in Australia, you guys call peppers, this is a long debate that I'm opening up right now. So peppers, as in like red, green, yellow bell peppers, I guess you call them. We call those at home capsicum. And that's like something to do with the actual seed. If you know the more like detailed version of what this is, I believe it's like one's the plant, one's the seed or something like that. Or the seed of the plant. So if you know that answer, can you comment below and help me out here while I stumble over my words? But basically, Sriracha has that in it, and it's very healthy for us. And so it's a really good option to have squeezed on top of something that you're wanting to enjoy. I personally am not a huge spice fan. It doesn't really do it for me, but I'm trying. I'm putting it on some things, and I'm trying to develop my taste buds, I guess, for spice, because Sriracha to me is really different than like a heated curry or something like Thai food that's had the spices infused in it, versus just this whack of hot sauce that's in my mouth and I feel like I'm on fire. So I don't know about you guys. Let me know in the comments below if you like hot or not. But Sriracha, even in little amounts, can be a good thing to mix through some sort of rice dish and give it some moisture, give it some of that feeling where it's not so dry and bland, and it can just be something that you experiment with. Last thing, guys, number 6. This is probably one of my favorite, and I know so many of you, this morning when I posted this on my Instagram, I got like 35 messages all at once telling me that you're so glad that salsa was on the list. So number 6 is salsa. And again, going back to like the tomato sauce ketchup thing that I was talking about, how it can be easy to make, salsa is actually incredibly easy to make. It's just vegetables. So think like onions, tomatoes, peppers, garlic. You can make a really creative salsa and just experiment. No two batches will be the same, and that's totally okay. Even when you get it from like markets, fresh salsa, it's very rare that you get exactly the same. It's always a little bit different, and I love that. And salsa is such a with the spices, especially if you're making it yourself, like you can get so many different flavors, and so it can make dishes really versatile. Like put it on top of something, cook with it inside of something. Don't be afraid to use it. It's loaded full of vegetables, and so I really recommend getting some salsa in your life. If you are buying the stuff from like the supermarket that's very like one of those big brands, just flip over the label and check in regards to like the sugar amounts, because some of them are a little bit sneaky. I know some people who follow like the Candida diet and like SIBO. If they have sugar in those sorts of things, it can really upset their all of their insides and what they're trying to do with their digestive system. And so not that that applies to everybody, but if we can make, if we can have salsa and we can just change brands and it reduces the sugar a lot, then I don't see the huge, it tastes the same, I don't see the huge loss there. So I really recommend, if you don't want to make your own and you don't want to go to the effort of that, just make sure before you buy it, flip the label over, look at the sugar content and try and get one that either has low or no sugar. Farmers markets and like the smaller batch salsas are my preference if I'm buying them. I like to support those local businesses, but I also think that they care about the quality of ingredients that are going into it, and that's a win for me. I like to know what's going into my body, and it tastes really good. So there you guys have it. 6 low-calorie condiments that you can add into your life. You'll notice that I didn't just give you one because that's boring. It's 6, guys. So go and check your fridge, go and check your pantry, those barbecue sauces, those honey mustards, all these like big jugs of the things that will keep in the fridge forever, all the ranch, like those have so many hidden calories in them. And I guarantee you, if you go right now and start looking at some of the ingredients that are in them, you probably won't be able to pronounce half of them. So why are we putting that into our body? And every now and then is totally okay. Don't get me wrong. I love those condiments. But if your goal is that you want to drop some weight, and your goal is you want to take care of your health and wellness, it can be a really crucial thing to look at, because often we think about it with all of our meals, but then it comes to the sauces and the things we're putting on top, and for whatever reason we either don't think about it or we don't care about it as much, and they can really add up. Remember what I was talking about with the chocolate chip cookie? We don't want to be putting those in big dollops on top of our healthy, delicious salads or our healthy, delicious meals that we've just made for ourselves. So I hope this was helpful for you guys. Thank you for tuning in. This has been another Just the Tip Tuesday. Next week's is going to be really exciting, and so make sure that you click this link, jump onto that newsletter so that you get the best updates, exclusive content that isn't shared anywhere else. And if you find this valuable, if you find this video of value and you think maybe somebody else would want to incorporate 6 of these condiments into their life, please share it. That would mean a lot to me. The more people we can help with this, the better. But thank you so much for tuning in. I hope you have an amazing Tuesday night. I love you guys so much, and I'll speak to you soon. Bye for now.